Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. Hope you're doing well. Over the last few years, people always ask me what my normal build is when I play Dark Souls, normally. And I've always answered the same way. Paladin, all the way. This goes for any game I play too. If there's a way to smite my enemies with holy abilities, there was never a second option for me. And if that build just so happens to also regenerate health over time, well, all the better. Now, it goes without saying that such a build is absolutely possible in Dark Souls. Hell, some would say it's even encouraged for new players, what with the heal miracle essentially acting as 5 free Estus uses, so long as you're not in the middle of combat. But what if we strip the build down to the studs? Can you beat Dark Souls 1 with only miracles? So, let's discuss. In Dark Souls, there are 3 types of spellcasting available to you. You've got Pyromancy, Magic, and Miracles. Miracles are, unsurprisingly, very focused on keeping you alive, and consist mostly of defense buffs and healing spells for you and your party. But there are a few miracles that do damage. Very few. And getting them isn't exactly easy either. I'd venture that the average player hasn't seen some of these miracles in action, due to how a number of them are hidden behind Covenant rewards or just plain difficult to get. So, with that in mind, let's begin
cleaning up that unruly, unmanageable beard you've got going on there.
What?
Your beard. You're in serious need of some help with that monster, my dude.
I don't even... You know I'm just an empty suit of armor, right?
Well, don't you worry. With Manscaped's new Beard Hedger Pro Kit, we can tame that beard of yours and get you back to looking proper.
Okay, you're clearly having a stroke. Should I call a doctor or... Oh my god, turn it off!
We all know the story. You've got a majestic beard that just won't quit. But every trimmer you've tried just can't keep up with your unfiltered manliness. Well, with Manscaped's Beard Hedger Pro Kit, you'll get all the tools you need to keep that beard in check. This kit comes with a premium beard trimmer, complete with titanium-coated blade, a single cover that can be adjusted to 20 different lengths, a long-lasting ion battery that can run for 60 minutes before charging, and a travel case that keeps everything nice and orderly. The trimmer can even operate in the shower, so there's no longer a need to choose between a shower and a trim if you're low on time in the mornings. But that's not all. The kit also comes with beard shampoo, conditioner, oil, balm, a wooden comb to help ease any tangles, a soft brush comb to help give your beard some volume, and a pair of beard scissors for quick touch-ups. So, whether you're just beginning your beard journey or are simply looking to upgrade your current setup, you can go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off plus free shipping when you use promo code Backlogs at checkout. That's 20% off plus free international shipping with promo code Backlogs at manscaped.com.
You know people are going to complain that we didn't test the product because we don't have hair, right?
Well, yeah, but the real Lemon does, and he gave it the thumbs up of approval after trying it. Isn't that right, Lemon?
Oh, come on, that guy's just a myth. What was that? Was that a stock asset? Was that real? So, let's talk about the start. The obvious choice is to pick the Cleric class, since it starts with a relatively strong talisman and even comes with a free heal spell. It also has the best faith stat out of all the starting classes, and we're going to want that as high as possible right from the word go. You'll see why shortly. Unfortunately, you can't actually beat the Asylum Demon, since we don't have any aggressive miracles yet. So for those of you who like to be pedantic in the comments, no, you can't actually beat the entirety of Dark Souls 1 with miracles. Thanks for stopping by, feel free to write your comment down below, and pretend that you actually stopped watching my video at this point. For the rest of my beautiful audience, wonderful people that you are, the run officially starts when we reach Firelink Shrine. I threw myself off a cliff to remove any unearned souls, then immediately got to work. I dropped into the Valley of Drakes, using the master key I took as a gift to open the shortcut gate, and begin my collectathon. Anything that's not nailed down is going in my undead pockets, especially if it's a pile of loose souls. I'm also hoping to wrap my fingers around the red Tearstone ring because, okay, well, I'm not dead yet, we might still... Right. Never mind. I don't need that ring, we'll do without. Instead, I make my way around Firelink Shrine, picking up all the loose souls I can get. Then proceed to scoot my glutes around Undead Burg as well, grabbing up all the shinies as I go. Then it's just a matter of setting off the fire barrel and, alright, seriously, what's going on today? Why didn't that, oh, for the love of Gwyn, are you serious? Anyway, I make my way down into the tower basement, say hello to Havel, open the door with my master key, then move on into the forest. Just gonna be one of those runs, isn't it? I dodge past all of the demonic foliage, which I will absolutely be smiting later, give a quick nod of acknowledgement to Andre, grab myself a Firekeeper's Soul so that I can upgrade my Estus Flask, then unlock the Firelink Shrine elevator. After that, it's just a brisk run through the rest of the Undead Parish, followed by checking off the Running of the Bulls from my bucket list. And after convincing the Spear Hollow under the bridge that I'll put in a good word to Gwyn if he lets me pass, we've officially unlocked the ladder to the Undead Burg bonfire. Which means we've also unlocked unlimited free souls, thanks to Puff Daddy Drake over there. Thanks, boss. I'll be sure to return the favor later. I pop all the loose souls I've got rolling around in my inventory, and combined with the souls I've been getting from the Drake Bridge, we can bring our faith to 25. Time to have some fun. Because just past the Drake and the bonfire he guards is the Sunlight Altar, and if you've got 25 faith, you can officially join the Warriors of Sunlight, and gain the first aggressive miracle of the run, Lightning Spear. Unfortunately, I've only got one attunement slot at the moment, but we'll fix that problem when we need to. Also, for those of you wondering how to join the Sunlight Warriors, the requirements are pretty simple. You either need 25 faith, or you need to participate in Jolly Cooperation. For every cooperator you help, the faith requirement is reduced by 5. So if you co-op 5 times in Dark Souls, you can join the Covenant for free. As for Lightning Spear, this miracle is a thing of beauty. The charge time is exceptionally slow, but the damage is well worth it. If you survive anyhow. Gonna be another one of those runs where timing is important. After all, it doesn't do me any good to have a weapon that can do massive damage if I can't get a hit off. On top of this, considering I've only got 10 casts, I don't want to use it against boss room mobs unless I absolutely have to. Alright you two, you've had your fun. Ow! Alright, that's it. I told Dad on both of you. You're gonna get such a whoopin', and here he comes now. So, with those two taken out of the equation, it's time for us to deal with the first boss of the run, the Taurus Demon. And you know what? I absolutely could have spared a few lightning spears for the mobs, considering it only takes 4 to bring the Taurus Demon to his knees. We may be a bit overpowered. I guess that means I can put some points into health, stamina, and maybe even a Lemon, no, we talked about this! Look, I can't help myself, alright? I see those triple-digit numbers, and every molecule of my brain just starts chanting, deeps, 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 and just starts dousing itself in dopamine. But enough about me, let's talk about Lautrec. Lautrec here has 2 things that I need, and he can't give me either of them until he's released from his cell. I begrudgingly grant him his freedom, then make a slight detour onto the parish rooftop, where we face off against the second boss of the run, the Bell Gargoyles. Should be interesting. The Gargoyles are a little more aggressive than the Taurus Demon, so timing will definitely become an issue. A fact that I am a bit slow to learn, and definitely need to learn, considering there are now 2 of them on the field. Thankfully, the mad deeps that I'm dishing out is more than enough to make quick work of the first gargoyle, and the second gargoyle is much less aggressive than the first. So long as you keep your distance, there's no contest. And with 2 final tosses, the gargoyles go down. First try, let's go. In case you haven't noticed, Lightning Spear has some of the longest ranges of any spell. And considering the way it's acquired, it's easy to imagine that it's supposed to be used to support your cooperators from the backlines. So that extra range makes sense. But we've still only got 10 casts to our name, and while we've rung the first bell with little issue, one has to wonder when the ride will come to a jolting halt. Guess we'll find out when we find out. First things first though, Lautrec has some goodies for me.
I have your reward. Please accept it.
That's 1.
Not enough for you? Well, let's not be greedy now.
That's rich, coming from you. Let he who is without sin cast the first kick, Lautrec. And tell Gwyn I sent you! So, with the Firekeeper saved and the Ring of Favor and Protection acquired, we can move on. Now, I know we just joined, and even went out of our way to get a Covenant item for them, but at this point in the run, I no longer need the Warriors of Sunlight. Better to be a part of the Way of White, and get a few miracles from Petrus instead. I grab Force, which will be more handy than you'd think, then clear the Titanite Demon out of Andre's basement. He's surprisingly weak to lightning, which is weird, considering, he uses lightning. Just FromSoft things, I guess. Yes, don't you worry, I didn't forget about my promise. There's plenty of smiting to go around. I acquired the brand armor out of habit, but decided that, as a man of the faith, it is better to remain a man of the cloth than to weigh myself down with unnecessary material objects. I'm keeping the helmet though, gotta keep that dome covered. And with that taken care of, it's time for the next boss, the Moonlight Butterfly. The butterfly is incredibly annoying if you're not a ranged character, but luckily for us I've got nothing but range. And with as large a target as the butterfly is, it takes nothing at all to hit it with several lightning bolts. Almost impossible to miss, actually. And with one final cast of Lightning Spear, the butterfly goes down with minimal effort. Moving right along. We bought the Force Miracle, we might as well explore what it does. For those of you who don't know, Force is essentially a shockwave that emanates in a 360-degree sphere around your character. You can push enemies off of cliffs, make enemies ragdoll away from you, and even deflect arrows and thrown objects if you time it just right. an effect that we'll use in a way that I guarantee only a handful of you have ever thought of later on in this run. But before I can show that little technique off, we've got to get past the dogs in the lower undead burg. Thankfully, there's plenty of environmental hazards for all the pups, so I don't need to use any of my spell slots to get rid of them. And if we sprint fast enough, we can get past all the thieves as well. Which means it's time for the Capra Demon. Now we just have to figure out how to kill the dogs without fire pits. I give myself a little breathing room, then repeat my breathing exercises while on top of the alcove, which gives me just enough time to get a lightning spear off against the enemy of my choosing down below. Repeat the process, and eventually both doggos are down for the count, which means Capra and I can now dance one-on-one. It's just a shame that Capra has 2 left feet. Right, who's next? I kindly asked the Hollows of Firelink to move so I can pump more souls into Faith, a request that they unwillingly oblige, then start making my way through the depths. Not much to see here. We haven't hit a DPS wall yet, and enemies are still going down in 1 or 2 hits. This is probably because of the way miracles work in Dark Souls 1. In the first game, you can't upgrade your talisman. What you get is what you get. However, this is actually a boon for the run. I don't need to grind materials of any kind to upgrade my weapons, and every point I put into Faith directly increases my damage. This takes a lot of routing and planning out of my run, which is always appreciated. So, with nothing else to gather in the depths, let's move right on to the boss, the Gaping Dragon. As big as this thing is, you'd think this would be the point in the run where I no longer have the damage to progress. And you know what? You'd be right. The Gaping Dragon has a massive health pool, and my 10 casts aren't going to be enough damage to push through. Unless I aim for the head. Turns out, the dragon's itty-bitty brain meats take extra damage when hit, which means my lightning spears do extra damage whenever they connect. The only way to reliably hit its head is after a slam attack though, so we have to play keep away until we can lure that particular animation out. It's not a difficult fight, but it is a lengthy one, which means we have to stay vigilant and focused for several minutes at a time. Thankfully, by the time we've used 4 casts, it's very obvious that we'll have enough damage to clear the fight. And despite missing the head with cast number 5, the damage isn't different enough to ruin the attempt. So after a quick bit of napkin math, I decide that I've got enough casts left to fire at will and begin throwing spears with abandon. And just like that, the Gaping Dragon goes down. Now, here's the thing. We're rapidly closing in on the Faith stats soft cap of 50, which means we're about to hit a wall when it comes to increasing our damage. And in case you didn't notice, every boss is getting closer and closer to using up all of my spell slots. So while I make my way through Blighttown, we need to do some thinking. There are several ways to increase our damage further, but they're a bit further into the run. We could always go back for the red Tearstone ring, which would give us another 40% boost to our damage, so there's always that. And we've still got a few more points of Faith to go as well, so we haven't quite hit that damage wall yet either. Outside of that, there is another ring we can use to increase our damage, and a headpiece we can use as well. But there's one problem. The majority of these items I just alluded to are in the mid or end game, which means the steamrolling extravaganza we've enjoyed up to this point is about to end. From here on out, it's an uphill battle to keep pace with the boss health pools, which brings us neatly to Quelaag. Let's see what we're up against. Well, she's relatively slow with her attacks, and her arena gives us plenty of room to maneuver, so getting off attacks isn't an issue. And despite all of the mental math we just did, we've crossed the 50% mark on Quelaag's health bar without using 50% of my spell slots, which means while we're getting closer to the point of needing additional help with our damage, Quelaag ain't it. And so, with 1 cast left to spare, Quelaag is down and out. We're not dead yet. So, with the 2 bells rung, we can now access Sen's Fortress. But we've got a few more stops to make before we tackle that particular brick wall. First things first, let's mess with Ceastus a little bit. I get him good and upset by telling him about our Lord and Savior Gwyn, run just out of range of his well-thought rebuttal, then finish off with a forceful retort. Well, I try to, anyway. Force isn't enough to actually get him to fall off the ledge. Turns out, finesse and tact are more effective than force. A life lesson to remember and treasure, to be sure. Looking at you, comment section. Antagonizing the audience aside, I clear the worm guarding the Demon Ruin bonfire, then make my way over to the... Oh. Ah, shit. Okay, this definitely throws a wrench into my plans. I was going to run down to the Isolus shortcut door and kill sunlight maggots for a few hours to grind out some sunlight metals, but I definitely forgot about the golden fog. This complicates things. Right, new plan. If we can't grind out sunlight metals and move forward in the Warriors of Sunlight, we'll just have to join another covenant instead. I push my way through the catacombs, kill the Titanite demon in the mausoleum, and collect the 3 eyes of death he was guarding. Then I get all nice and snug in the nearest open coffin and contemplate life for a few hours. You know, if it weren't for the bones of whoever was already in this coffin before me, this wouldn't be half bad. What was that? Get fucked, meatbag! Tony? Tony! Let me out! I don't like small spaces, I can't breathe! After what felt like hours, I arrive at my destination, Nito's Arena. But rather than fight him, we're actually here to ask him for his blessing. Forgive me, Gwyn, but I must do what I must do. For the good of the run, I must dance. So, while I pick up the homeward miracle from Petrus before he decides to go into the Tomb of Giants, let's talk about the Gravelord's Sword Dance. It may say it has 40 casts, but in reality it's more like 2. It's an area of effect attack that doesn't have faith scaling, so it's just as effective now as it would have been at the start of the run, which is why I didn't really want to use it. But we need every offensive miracle we can get at this point, and what better way to test it than by going back to the beginning of all things. I do my best impression, and make my way back to the Undead Asylum, then give the Sword Dance a try. That is not a promising start. I've heard rumors that it does better in enclosed spaces, but I'll be damned if I can actually get a cast off with this thing. The casting time is absolutely ridiculous, so unless your enemy is completely winded from its last attack, chances are you're not going to get it off in time. Cool. Well, considering how big some of the bosses are, maybe it'll be more effective with them. Okay, well, maybe that was a fluke. Second time's the charm? Alright, 0 damage. Awesome. Really glad I ran into the catacombs for this piece of shit. So, yeah. This miracle is complete ass. It's completely inconsistent when it comes to damage, and that's only if it hits at all. And unfortunately, we've finally hit the DPS wall as far as Lightning Spear is concerned. Even if we were to somehow get Sword Dance to hit with both casts, we still wouldn't have enough damage. Please stop the ride. I would like to get off. Thank you. Okay, new plan. With our faith essentially maxed out at this point, I think we can finally obtain a more consistent way to increase our damage. I clear the Hydra in the Darkroot Basin, then disintegrate the Golden Golem hiding in the alcove, freeing Dusk in the process. And while she doesn't sell anything that I can actually use in this run, the very act of summoning her actually causes her outfit to spawn back at the alcove. And Dusk's crown, as broken as it is, actually gives us 20% boost to our miracle damage. We will take an additional 30% damage from magic attacks, but we were already a glass cannon. That extra 30% probably won't matter anyway. And with that little boost to our damage acquired, there's nothing else for it. Time for Sen's Fortress. I push my way through all the traps and mobs, then meet up with Karl. Turns out the golem up above made fun of him and has him feeling a little self-conscious about his body. I'm sorry to hear that, friend. Give me a moment, would you? You dare make fun of my boy like that! That man has been with me since the beginning. We've been to hell and back together, and I would do anything for him. Look, I get it. Life sucks sometimes, and we're all scared. But the next time you're scared and need to feel big about yourself, don't push your feelings outward onto others. Look inward instead. And if you keep working at it, I promise the good feelings will last far longer than any brief relief putting down others gets you. Now take your ball and go home. I continue pushing through Sen's Fortress, but wouldn't you know it, another giant is besmirching all the hard work I've done to give firebombs a good name. Honestly, what is it with these guys today? If you're gonna use my weapon of choice against me, use it correctly.
Oh, fuck.
Right then. With both giants removed from the equation, it's time to see what the golem is made of. I'm not exactly optimistic, but hey, you never know. Oh, really now? Turns out that extra 20% really makes a difference. We're gonna be okay. I make the mistake of being a little too far away from the golem once or twice, but after figuring out the appropriate distance, the golem goes down with little to no issue. Another first try kill. Actually, that's been the case with every single boss except for the Stray Demon. Pretty wild to think about. But before we move on to Anne Orlando, we've got a few bits of business to take care of first. I pump my newly acquired souls into Faith and hit the soft cap, then put the rest into Vitality. That's what you all wish I did. No, I put them into Dexterity. Why, you ask? Because I like to make the audience squirm in their collective seats. And for no other reason. Nah, in actuality, stupid as it sounds, putting points into Dexterity actually increases your casting speed in Dark Souls 1. At least, it does at higher levels of Dexterity. Like, ridiculously high levels. We're talking levels 35 to 45. And while it would probably do me good to have a bit more health in the short term, I am concerned about future fights against the more aggressive bosses in the game. You know the ones. Besides, we've already made it this far with base health and minimal shield use. No reason to start pumping Vitality now. Speaking of a lack of Vitality, it's time for Pinwheel. Place your guesses now for how many hits it takes. 1, 2, 3. 3 hits. More than I was expecting, if I'm being honest. And now to collect my prize. Oh, look! Garbage. I jump headfirst into the Tomb of Giant Pit, putting that new Dexterity to work, grab myself a Skull Lantern, then talk to Rhea about her current situation.
You're no hollow, are you?
I mean, I can see why you'd think that, but no. No, I'm not.
Thank goodness.
Why'd you say it like that? I put Rhea's 2 companions to rest, get a useless miracle from her for my troubles, give Patches a stern talking to until he gives me a twin humanity, then clamber my way back out of the Tomb of Giants, and eventually the catacomb— Help me, base god! And after a short detour to pick up the Dark Moon Seance ring, I escape that unending hellscape and make my way up to the Undead Parish to see Rhea. Let me just make a quick detour before I go. Gwyn is very disappointed in you, Petrus. Very disappointed. Now say 10 great heals and think about what you've done. Back up at the Undead Chapel, Rhea is now free to sell us whatever miracles she owns, and she certainly owns a lot. We could get more force casts, which would be nice, and the extra defense from Magic Barrier would certainly help mitigate the defense loss I have for my headgear. But Wrath of Gods. Et Laudamus Lucem. Now then, I think that's about as much as we're going to get out of this half of the game. Time to push forward. Time for Anne Orlando. But first, I think a demonstration of God's wrath is in order, don't you? Oh yeah, God is very angry today. Man, that casting time though. I know we only get 3 casts, but who, baby, is that going to help? After failing to realize how quickly the painting guardians behind me would catch up, I took my time and made sure to give God's love to each and every painting guardian in the room. Except his love! That works too. And with the other gargoyle literally blasted to pieces, it's time. Time to deliver God's wrath upon an entire world. There's not much to see here. The enemies here go down in only a few hits, and before long, I'm standing before the fluffiest abomination you ever did see. I'm sorry, my dear, but rules are rules. Gwyn wants you killed, and I am but a mouthpiece of his will. And, when need be, his arm. I'll be honest, she pulled a fast one on me at first. But after that first hit, I was able to hit her several times with Wog. At least, I think I did. It's the weirdest thing. I know I cast Wog right next to her all 3 times, but she never left invisibility. You'd think it would have high poise damage, but there you go. Guess I should have brought Force instead. All the same, Priscilla goes down. You know, something about that fight felt off. I know I've been acting in Gwyn's name, and my faith is strong, but with everything I've seen thus far, I don't know. Something isn't right. And for the first time, my faith wavers. But then, in the darkness, a light and a voice.
Then I shall protect thee, safeguarding thy person with the power of the dark moon. Hunteth the enemies of the lords by the power of the dark sun.
And what enemies dost thou wish slain? Very well. Your will shall be done. It appears I have a mission, and for my fealty, I am given a gift. The Ring of the Sun's Firstborn, which increases my miracle damage by another 20%. But first, a quick backtrack. Cheese? Cheese. I run on back through Sen's fortress and collect a very necessary item, the Golden Serpent Ring. Then it's back to the Painted World to hunt my prey. For it is these abominations that Gwendolyn wants destroyed, and I shall not disappoint them. And after slaying several dozens of the beasts, I finally have collected enough souvenirs to please the lords above. And for my troubles, the best talisman in the game, the Dark Moon Talisman. Maximum damage has officially been achieved. And what better way to celebrate than by helping out my boy Karl? You having trouble, friend? I got you. From downtown! Fuck that chair in particular, I guess?
Wait, you defeated those monsters?
The chair? Yeah, obliterated the damn thing. Anyway, on to the next bosses, Ornstein and Smo. I'm not gonna lie to you, I struggled on this boss. At least, more than every other boss thus far. The good news is that Smo takes heavy lightning damage, so we're probably good there. The bad news is that I really suck at fighting Ornstein and Smo at the same time. I'll be perfectly fine as soon as I can get one of them bursted down. I just need one of you to die! Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to take off the Golden Serpent Ring. That might help a bit. Yep, that's a little bit better, just a smidge. And with Smo defeated, that just leaves Super Ornstein. Let's give you a taste of your own medicine. Well, that sucks. Guess it's a good thing I brought a backup strategy then. Now, Wrath of Gods wasn't enough to kill him outright, but it was enough to get him into killing range. And while it was much closer than I would have liked, much closer than I would have liked, Ornstein goes down with a single casting of Lightning Spear to spare. Not even close, baby! And with the troublesome duo defeated, we've officially crossed the halfway mark. Time for the next big push. Speaking of big pushes, Karl's back at Firelink Shrine. Turns out he heard how much trouble I was having with Ornstein and decided I need a little extra assistance. Cool, thanks. I probably could have used this before Ornstein and Smo, but hey, better late than never. I head down into Firelink Altar, using naught but faith to slow my descent, then wait for a sign from the gods on what to do next. I mean, it's certainly a sign, but could you be a little bit more specific? Hello? Nah, screw it, I'll just make it up as I go. Let's start with the Stray Demon. Wrath of the Gods does a decent chunk of damage, but with all my buffs now in place, Lightning Spear really takes on a life of its own. And that's the Stray Demon destroyed. Who's next? Considering I need the Silver Serpent Ring to make sure I completely round out my build, it looks like Nito is next on the chopping block. Be gone, pests. The likes of you aren't worthy enough to even be considered prey. I will say, I'm a bit worried about Nito's constantly reviving skeletons, though. Maybe we need to make a short detour. Back to the fair lady, who offers me a trade. 30 humanities for the chance at increased power. A trade that I begrudgingly accept. But before that, there's one more mistake I need to remove from the realm. The Demon Fire Sage. I blast him down to almost half with Wog, then finish the fight from a safe distance. Another blight destroyed. Time for a test of faith. Here, amongst the sunlight maggots and demon spawn, I will find my treasures. Here, amongst the filth, will my faith be renewed. And with Karl's gift and an immense amount of patience, it is finished. Sunlight metals, stolen from my brethren, now return to the altar from which they belong. And for my troubles, the strength that was promised to me. Great Lightning Spear. For those wondering, I did a quick damage test. It's essentially a 100 damage difference between the two. Not exactly game-breaking, but if you change your perspective, it's actually an extra 10 casts of the longest range miracle I own, with an added bonus that it does an extra 100 damage each cast, which is definitely worthwhile. I backtracked through the early game, destroying any foes that may have given me trouble in the past, then returned to my original prey, Nito, Lord of the Undead. As predicted, his skeleton soldiers are a bit of a problem, but after luring out a toxic blast attack, Nito unwittingly destroys his own defenses, leaving me to throw Great Lightning Spears at will. And with only 6 throws, the Lord of the Undead goes down, which means it's time for the next false ally of Gwyn to be destroyed. Seath, hiding behind his sorcerers, golems, and armored creations. None shall escape. I collect trinkets from the dead, then confront Seath's Crystal General. Ye of little faith. And then it's time. Time to face the scaleless traitor himself. Behold, Lord Gwyn's wrath. What? No, my faith is beyond compare. There's no way a faithless coward such as yourself can... But... why?
Foolish puppet.
I don't understand. I've done everything they've asked. Never questioned their reasons. Or lack thereof. Have I really just been a pawn? A tool so quickly discarded and forgotten amongst the rubble of this dying world? Perhaps it's time I find my own reasons. My own truths. My own fuel. Wait. Wait, Oh God, we've been lied to this entire time. These bonfires aren't here to guide us, they're here to contain us, to use us as fuel. I've got to get out of here. Can't let them do this. Maybe the damage isn't too far done. Maybe I can fix this. Fix everything I've destroyed. Or, if not that, at the very least, finish what I've started. I race through the Duke's archives, decimating any opposition as I desperately search for a solution. Into Seath's Crystal Caves, his lair and laboratory. Turns out, Seath's been trying to solve the problem as well. A bastardized solution to an unnatural problem. Oh, Seath. Such limitless potential. Ruined by your envy and lack of foresight. What good is immortality if the world around you crumbles to dust? I hurl wave after wave of lightning at the beast, just like the dragon wars of old. And just like the old wars, the dragon is no match against the strength of the light. Back into the demon ruins, the lost city of Izalith, destroyed by the Chaos Witch's ambition and hubris. Rather than try to sustain life, they opted to create it instead. But it grew wild and out of control. They created beasts, monsters, demons, pure unadulterated chaos. I put its tortured screams to rest. I see the effects of their wild magic firsthand. See how even now they struggle to fully understand what they've created, what they've done. They shall worry no more. I dive into the bed of chaos, into the heart of corruption itself. With limb and claw, the chaos attempts to survive, driven strictly by instinct, a will to exist. I extinguish its flame. And then I turn my gaze to the puppeteers themselves, to the so-called gods of this forsaken world. I turn their own wrath against them. I use their own hatred, their fear of man, and make them into weapons of my own. Their fear is strong. Good. It should be. Empty tombs, empty halls, empty promises. Humankind has paid dearly for their treachery. Evidence of this fact is everywhere you look. Even our greatest allies have turned against us. What few allies we had. Forced to fight one another. Forced to choose between two evils. I make my choice. Even our own blood has been corrupted. The history of humankind, once rich, now filled with tormented horrors and shapeless memories. Entire cities of my people, drowned at the hands of those higher beings we worshipped in the name of containment. Our own leaders turned against us, corrupted by a wish for power, for control. But can you blame them? The curse was spreading, the curse that the gods created, and we were forced out of their cities as if we were nothing more than plague-ridden rats. Our kings may have lost themselves to corruption, but it was the lords who planted the seed. I bury this past, and go in search of another. Perhaps, if I look far enough back, I can find a solution. Maybe if we made different choices, things could be different. I can only hope it's enough. But as I walk through the warbling strings of time, I realize that I'm too late. The corruption has spread here too. Gwyn's influence has already corrupted this land. His fingers dig deep. I press onward, in hopes that something yet may be done. But I have little hope left. The beasts here are twisted amalgamations of reality, all razor-sharp fangs and too many eyes, or too few. The eyes themselves drip with a mental venom, a gaze into the abyss that created them. I send them back from whence they came. I wouldn't have thought it possible, but the corruption is stronger here, physically manifesting itself in inky tendrils and masses, spreading along every floor and wall. I go deeper, deeper into the darkness, into the void, into the cold, searching for something. Answers, maybe. I'm no longer sure. And I find it in the depths of the inky blackness. Not my answers, no. Something else. This thing is stronger than anything I have faced thus far. It's grown powerful down here in the dark. My faith protects me, and the light I carry with me brings the beast pain. A single survivor amongst all this wreckage. All my efforts for a single young girl, whimpering in fright. I pray it will be enough. And then, I return, searching for changes, looking to see if my efforts have borne fruit. It appears not. Rather, it appears that things have inexplicably gotten worse. Ash covers the inner lands of the kingdom. The flame that once lit its center is nearly extinguished. However, my hope still burns brightly. I've cleansed this land of its lords, and slain the impostors that have brought us to ruin. There's only one final foe between me and my goal. But despite my efforts, despite my determination and strength, it's simply not enough. I cannot beat the self-proclaimed lord who has brought us to this breaking point. He is, even in his decrepit state, too powerful. My lightning spears, so potent throughout my travels, become little more than singeing sparks against his flesh. They are his creation, after all, and they are not so easily converted to my cause. My hope starts to waver, then flicker. And then, just before it is lost, a thought occurs. I may not have been able to change this world's present by visiting its past. One cannot expect a single drop of water to change the flow of the ocean, after all. But what if I change my own past? Will that change my present? My future? Will a single choice make all the difference? A man hopes.